Hello, this is TJR. If this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. If not, welcome back. The following article is from faroutmagazine.com and was forwarded to me with the suggestion that I might want to make a video about it. I'm guessing this is probably because I have a little bit of history exploring Led Zeppelin, or perhaps I should say Jimmy Page's history with plagiarism. The article is titled, "The Reason Why Jimi Hendrix Hated Led Zeppelin. They Stole from Everybody." The author of the article, Sam Kemp, does include a lot of his own personal opinions, so please be aware of the fact that when I am quoting this article, I am quoting his opinions, and that his opinions are not necessarily my opinions. Let me read from the article here. While rock will always be a genre that splits opinion, Jimi Hendrix was a unifying force that seemingly everyone admired greatly. It only took him a matter of months after arriving in England to have the biggest stars in the country, such as members of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, eating out of the palm of his hands. Now, I should make it known that I'm a fan of the albums. As a guitarist, I'm a student of the music, but I'm not what you would call a Hendrix archivist when it comes to his personal life. But it does seem to me like he could not get noticed in the United States until he went to England, where the rock royalty of that country took a shine to him. Getting back to the article, Hendrix didn't gain a reputation for being foul-mouthed about other bands and preferred to share positive sentiments about his fellow artists. Perhaps on a subconscious level, this was due to Hendrix's innate self-belief in his abilities, which prevented him from being drawn into petty squabbles. However, while he may have been diplomatic in the press, Hendrix did hold scathing views of other acts. Rather than trying to stoke rivalries, he preferred to keep these opinions to himself and those that he trusted most. Led Zeppelin have always been a divisive entity. For some, they represented the very pinnacle of rock. Meanwhile, for others, they were just a bunch of white dudes playing the blues. Admittedly, the group, which featured Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham, do indeed have something of a complicated legacy. Now, I have been a huge Zeppelin fan for most of my life. I have only good things to say about the music. And growing up in a pre-information age, I didn't really understand why some blues aficionados and some great blues musicians looked down on Led Zeppelin. Now, however, in the information age, I understand where that resentment comes from. I still love the music, though. Getting back to the article, under the microscope, bands like Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones don't fare too well. Whilst their songs are often heralded as defining an entire era of popular music, it's hard to ignore how much they absorbed Black American culture for their own ends. Furthermore, Led Zeppelin appears particularly culpable because, unlike the Rolling Stones, who have released albums featuring covers of artists who inspired them, Led Zeppelin never openly acknowledged their influences. For Hendrix, Zeppelin's knack for stealing material was, to put it bluntly, a real turnoff. Honestly, I don't think the Rolling Stones should be dragged into this. The Stones always credited who they were covering, and have always tipped their hats to their blues influences. Getting back to the article, although he never shared these opinions with the wider world, one close confidant later revealed a personal conversation in which Hendrix divulged his real opinions on Led Zeppelin. In an interview held back in 2006, Carmine Appice, and don't get started on his last name, that's how he says it, the drummer of the rock band Vanilla Fudge, discussed the legacy of Led Zeppelin. Recalling a meeting with Hendrix in the 1960s, Appice said, "Jimi Hendrix personally told me that he didn't like Led Zeppelin because they were like excess baggage and that they stole from everybody. You Shook Me was on Jeff Beck's record. Dazed and Confused has a bit of Vanilla Fudge on it, and it has parts of Beck's Bolero in it. I think I was told by a member of the band that the Good Times, Bad Times riff came from Tim Bogart's bass line." Now, Jimi Hendrix certainly recognized that Led Zeppelin, or I guess I should really say Jimmy Page, borrowed a little too closely at times. But like most everyone, he was not aware that Dazed and Confused was outright stolen by Page from Jake Holmes when he was in the Yardbirds. But I'm sure he recognized the use of The Hunter by Albert King and How Many More Years by Howlin' Wolf in their track How Many More Times. Although I would say that these last two examples skirt more towards homage, still, the fact that Zeppelin made no mention in their album credits must have been a turnoff, as it was to a lot of blues musicians and fans. Getting back to the article, in the mind of Appice, the group's plagiaristic habits didn't seem so controversial. Music, after all, has always been characterized by cross-pollination. The drummer explained, "When I first heard John Bonham do that triplet thing on the bass drum, I went up to him and said, 'John, that is amazing. I have to admit that I took that from you.' He looked at me and said, 'What are you talking about? I took that from you.' I replied, 'I don't do that. You couldn't have taken it from me.'" Appice continued by saying, "He proceeded to tell me where I did actually do that on the first Vanilla Fudge record, and he was right. I only did it for a moment on that album, and he took it and made it something bigger and better out of it. We used to go and sit on the side of the stage and watch Zeppelin. We hung out in the dressing rooms, and we built a great relationship with them." And what he is describing is very true. Nothing gets created in a vacuum. Musicians all take inspiration and influences from each other and from what came before. For the opening drum lick of Rock and Roll, John Bonham took inspiration from Little Richard. But these are clearly different songs, with one only taking inspiration from the other. Unlike Carmine Appice, though, Hendrix wasn't so forgiving of Led Zeppelin. For Hendrix, Zeppelin's grab-and-run technique was also a deal-breaker. When asked about the Stadium Rockers in an interview held in 1970, Hendrix said, "I don't think much of Led Zeppelin. I don't think much about them." But in correcting himself, Hendrix failed to disguise his apathy for a band he regarded as plundering American music for all it's worth. He did, however, concede that Jimmy Page is a great guitarist. Now, I should also add that the original credits for Led Zeppelin II from 1969 didn't credit Willie Dixon's original lyrics for You Need Love, nor did it credit the Lemon song, which was a reworking of Killing Floor by Howlin' Wolf, and that Bring It On Home was a cover of a Willie Dixon song originally performed by Sonny Boy Williamson II. And again, I can see where Hendrix and other blues fans and musicians saw this, at the very least, as a great disrespect from the band. Getting back to the article, unfortunately the two never had the chance to perform together much, to the disappointment of Page, who later said, "I never saw him play either. I'm really, really upset with myself for never seeing him. I really wanted to hear him." It must be said that Hendrix didn't live to see Led Zeppelin fulfill their musical potential, as he tragically passed away in 1970. Over the next decade after his death, Led Zeppelin would evolve dramatically and develop a unique sound that was less reliant upon the initial influences that shaped them. And this is true. Most of the tracks that get the plagiarism claim come from Led Zeppelin's early catalog, with Stairway to Heaven being the only mid to late era track that received the plagiarism accusation. There is, of course, Nobody's Fault But Mine, that never acknowledges Blind Willie Johnson. The credits to Presence credit all songs to being written by Led Zeppelin. Back when the Led Zeppelin versus Spirit lawsuit was a fairly regular topic on this channel, a viewer commented that they were just starting to get into Led Zeppelin when all of the evidence of plagiarism began to rear its ugly head on the internet. He expressed his feelings of disappointment with the band over this, and asked if he thought if he or anyone else should still listen to them. At this point, I want to mention that I am quoting from memory, and memory is not always the most reliable witness in my opinion. I wish I had the time to actually look up this original comment, but it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. But I think my response went something like this. I pointed out to this person that while there are a handful of Led Zeppelin songs that need to give proper credit and remuneration, that the majority of Led Zeppelin songs are wholly original, and that you shouldn't deprive yourself of listening to any of it. But, I added, at the same time, you need to acknowledge that Jimmy Page, and by extension Led Zeppelin, did this. Don't be like some people who try to excuse this or rationalize it, saying, well, yeah, they stole it, but they made it better. Call it for what it is. Acknowledge that it was wrong, but also appreciate all the amazing music they made outside of these few offenses. Anyways, those are my thoughts. It's been a while since I've talked about this topic on this channel, and being forwarded this article, which just got published, kind of made me think about it all over again. Let me know your thoughts. As always, if you like these videos, be sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. A big thank you and shout out to my Patreon supporters. Patreon supporters do receive exclusive weekly videos that are not available on this channel. You can also leave a one-time super thanks for any video that I post here. And mostly, though, if you can just click like, it will really help this channel. And clicking like is free. Everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you stay safe and healthy. Take care. Bye-bye.